Welcome back to the Art and Yoga and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Kira Whitaker. Today, we are going to be talking about community and relationships. We're talking all about how our community and relationships directly affect our overall health and well-being. I go over some powerful questions you can ask yourself to see how your current relationships are. Maybe they need enhancement. Maybe they're going great. And we just have a good little conversation about our relationships and community. So head on over to today's video. I will see you there. Welcome back to the Art and Yoga and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Kira Whitaker. So today we are going to be talking about community and relationships. So the November course, I think the final course to go out in our membership for this year is community and relationships and how community and relationships affect our overall health and well-being. And so I thought it would be a good idea to talk about it on the podcast. I won't go into all the same details in depth in certain areas that I do in the course, but I wanted to touch on it. I also thought that going into the holidays would be a really good time. For me, the holidays is when we're a lot more social. It is when there's more parties. There's also a lot more family interactions and gatherings. And so for me, it felt like personally brushing up on and kind of looking at community and relationships and just doing a little inventory. It felt like this would be a great time. And so here we are together on the podcast talking about it. So community and relationships affect our overall health and well-being. And if we have not seen anything else, you guys, in the past couple of years, all of the research and data that has come out, and it's been pretty measurable, the influx and increase of loneliness and despair, isolation. We have seen now more than ever, I think, the importance of community and relationships and how those truly do affect our health and well-being. And so I wanted to give you a definition of community relationships. I'm actually going to be calling it social connectedness, but I think that those two terms can be interchangeable. This came from the CDC. So the CDC defines it as social connectedness influences our mind, bodies, and behaviors, all of which influence our health and life expectancy. Research shows that social connectedness can lead to longer life, better health, and improved well-being. Social connectedness is the degree to which people have and perceive a desired number, quality, and diversity of relationships that create a sense of belonging and being cared for, valued, and supported. And the reason that I decided to use this definition and this breakdown is because I really loved the last part where it says that it creates a sense of belonging and being cared for, valued, and supported. And the reason I love that so much is community and relationships can seem a bit vague. You know, nutrition, exercise, some of the other areas in health and wellness can seem a little bit more definitive, a little bit more measurable. Community and relationships, at least the way I see it and digest it, not so much. And so I loved this because it gives you measurable outcomes. It says, per healthy community and relationships, this is how you might feel, right? I might feel like I belong. I might feel cared for. I might feel like I'm valued. I might feel a sense of being supported in those relationships. So it tells you how you might feel as a result of being in healthy relationships. And something that I think is so, so important, but also can very frequently be overlooked in our health and wellness is how drastically and directly our relationships can affect our health, right? And our decision-making and our behaviors. Years ago, I was working with a health coaching client who wanted to work with me to for weight management, healthy eating habits. They had struggled with kind of yo-yo dieting over the years and just not been able to get to a place where they felt consistent and like there weren't these huge ebbs and flows in their diet in the way that they were nourishing themselves. And through my protocol, what I do in the first few sessions with all of my health coaching clients, into our sessions, probably session 3 or 4 after we'd spent some time together, I was able, through kind of my own data collection per the past histories, past successes, barriers, and just rhythms and themes, to ask that client, when was the last time you felt secure and nourished and consistent and healthy in your relationship with meals and food? And what we discovered was she felt a lot more supported and secure and consistent in her nourishment and in her relationship with food when she was more socially plugged in. During this time, this client had not, and rightfully so, it was a season where the whole world was shut down, but she hadn't been going to as many meetings. Maybe book club was canceled. There wasn't the supper club. They weren't having board meetings for this. I'm coming up with random examples right now to paint a picture, but there was a lot more community around meals. There was a lot more life around it. And what had happened was the client was lonely and the client was eating in isolation, and there was different emotions being compensated and filled through food. And so what I was able to say to this client is, I know that the food seems like the squeaky wheel in the room right now, but I'm wondering if we spent some time on your relationships and your community and we looked at that first, how that could maybe support your relationship with food. And so the reason I'm giving this example is because I wanted to tie in and paint a picture early on in our conversation today of how our relationships and who we surround ourselves with can drastically impact how we care for ourselves, our behaviors and our health and wellness, and our consistency in it. And so what I'm going to give you is some takeaways, some examples today of how you can evaluate, measure, look at your own community in relationships, and also some questions you might want to ask yourself when it comes to your relationships to see, could they use some enhancement? Maybe you're going to go through these questions with me today and you're going to be like, I didn't really realize how strong my relationships are. I didn't really realize how supported I am. So I'm just going to throw the ball back and forth with you guys today and hopefully get you a little bit curious and also be a catalyst for you to look into your relationships. Relationships change so much during seasons of life, where we're at, where someone we're in relationship is in their life. And so it's very, very, very changing and evolving as far as an area of wheel of health. And so reevaluating and looking at it as something that does shift and change and need different levels of attention throughout different seasons of our lives, I do think is important. So one thing that we're going to do before we go into some powerful questions is I'm just going to give you some characteristics of healthy relationships. So how might I know if a relationship is healthy? What are some things that could be something measurable or could be the scale that I could put this on? Some characteristics of healthy community and connectedness is the number, variety, and types of relationships a person has. On the podcast, I get to give you more real life examples than I do when I'm working with clients. When I'm working with clients and when I'm doing, courses and creating content, in that capacity, I always try to keep it very, very pertained and directed and targeted to the client. It's not really about me, but on here, I get to give you examples. So when I say number, variety, and types of relationships a person has, the thing that really sticks out to me is variety. If you know me, my husband will tell you he has never planned a birthday party for me, I don't think, in his life. And the reason is because I have a lot of different friend groups. I have so many different interests. and I have so many different things that I like and that I'm passionate about. I have a lot of different relationships that support all of those things. I don't have one friend that falls into all of those categories. Not saying that that friend isn't, and I have amazing friends in community, but I'm just saying I have a lot of different interests. I have some of my friends that are female entrepreneurs, and they really, really connect with me and provide community as a female business owner. I have a group of moms that our kids have been on the soccer team for forever. They are my sister wives. They are the village that makes it to where we are able to do what we need to do to mother these children and drive them all over the Southeast. That's a different group. That group doesn't really overlap at all with my business owner friends. I have friends that I went to school with that are also health coaches, that we talk about our career and our field, and they are so important to me. I have my friends that are just our life friends that we went to college with, or our kids are growing up with, and they're just our friends that we do life with. I have friends from college that are just my girls. We've known each other forever. I have friends that I've met in the last few years that I really connect with. I have a lot of different circles of friends because there's a lot of different layers to this onion, and I have a lot of different interests, and I don't expect for one friend to fill every single cup for me, just like other relationships. My husband is not my best girlfriend. He's my person, but he doesn't have to be my best friend, my therapist, my mother, my father, my husband, my coworker. Like, no, he is not meant that. That is not what he is designed to be. And so having a variety of relationships can really enhance and support your other relationship, because that relationship isn't having to hold the weight of all of these different areas of needs of ours. Okay. So having a little bit of variety is a good thing. Having meaningful and regular social exchanges. Now, we are so lucky that we are in the day and age of technology, social media. It is easier than ever to communicate and to check in and to have conversations with people. And so having a regular sense of social connectedness is really important. Now, is there a perfect balance there? And is there a recipe, a one size fits all? No. There are days where I don't want to talk to a soul. I don't want to talk. I need to be introverted for a bit. I don't need connectedness. Connectedness is going to drain the battery. But there's also weeks where I really, really need to be pursued in my friendships. I want to reach out. I want to be the person to love on my friends. I want to check in on them. There's weeks where I want to have lunch 4 times in that week with girlfriends. And I want to, take the kids out to do stuff after school and go get a treat. And then there's weeks where I don't need as much, but definitely checking in with yourself and also your relationships and just seeing, is the flow and frequency of these social exchanges leaving me with a sense of, going back to our measurable factors, feeling cared for, feeling supported, feeling loved. If you can't say yes to that, then we know that this is something that maybe we want to look at. Okay. So that goes to sense of support from friends, family, and others in community. This is another way we can kind of check in and measure the level of health in our community and relationships is, do I feel support? Do I feel like I'm being cared for? The list goes on. So what are the feelings after I'm with these friends, or after conversations, or after time spent, or just knowing that I'm in that relationship? It doesn't have to be a direct interaction, but do I feel a sense of belonging? Do I feel like I have close bonds with people? Do I feel appreciated? Those are things that you can ask yourself. And the other thing that I personally, again, I get to be a little bit more personal on the podcast than I do when I'm in private practice with clients, is I like to ask myself this. We live in a culture of me, and I'm the point, right? We live in a culture that says that you're the point. It's all about you and it's all about your feelings. That's not true. I yes, I like to go down this list. I like to check in on these things and check in on, and how am I receiving from my relationships. But I also want to ask myself that one thing that I really, really try to do in my relationship. I don't always get it right because I'm one person. So this is not me going, look at me, follow me. I do relationships perfectly, because I don't. I really try to pursue and check in. I do not ever do the kind of tit for tat in relationships. Well, it's your turn to call me. It's your turn to text me. My friends know I am all about a voice message that just says, hey. So asking yourself, am I giving the same things that I wish to receive in a relationship? Does this feel mutual? Does this feel somewhat balanced? Am I leaning in as they lean back? Am I pursuing when they're in a season where they just don't have it in them to pursue? So asking yourself the same questions, because that's also going to add to the quality of your relationships. Your relationships are only going to be as healthy as you are. All right. And then going to some questions that you can ask yourself. So those were more of a check-in. These are direct, powerful questions that you might want to ask. And one of those are, I'm not going to give all of them out just because it's a laundry list. But if you want more of these, they're inside the course in the membership. But how do you feel about the quality of important relationships in your life? So just asking yourself, like, how do you feel about the quality of them? What is the quality of your communication skills? I did a podcast early on, and it was, I think, like 3 or 4 tips, and it was tips to improve your communication. This is something that it is definitely a skill set. It is not something that I was naturally born with at all. Okay. But I learned it in school. So I was trained formally in motivational interviewing, active listening, and behavior change. I did not know a lot of this before, and I'm here to tell you it has really improved my communication, not only with my clients, but also in my relationships with my children, my spouse. So your communication skills are really important. The good news is it's a skill. Skills are things that are learnable. Skills are things that can be taught and that we can learn. So if it's not something that is a strong suit of yours, or if it's something you need to brush up on, you can always learn it. So seeing and evaluating your communication skills, things like, do you know how to actively listen? Do you know how to hold space and be physically, emotionally, and mentally present during conversations? Do people feel that from you? Do you know how to not crosstalk and interrupt? Things like that. And they seem like givens, but guys, a lot of us, including yours truly, give ourselves a lot more credit than we deserve when it comes to community. And so now I'm going to talk a little bit more about community and give a couple more things. So community is hard. And community is hard as we get older. A lot of us are short on time because we are, we have jobs, we have lives, we have, adult things that we have to do. And other people are doing the same thing. So oftentimes in all different seasons of life, it's not that the desire is not there. It's not that the care and the want for the relationship isn't there. It's schedules and timelines just don't align and match. Okay. And so that can be really, really difficult. But one thing I will say is, the meaningful relationships, they really, really need to just be something that works for you in your friendships or your relationships. In a way that you can evaluate that is you can ask yourself, does this relationship align with my values? And notice I didn't say, do we have things in common? Are kids the same age? I mean, those can help, and those can be really good starters in relationships. But having things in common and living in the same proximity and having kids the same age doesn't always mean that it's not always enough to hold a relationship together long term. It can. I really like to go by values. And so Again, we have a podcast on this. So if you need to evaluate your values or just want a longer conversation on values, we have one for you. But your values are going to be, I always think of it like my moral compass. Like my values are the things that are so deeply and inherently important to me, and not on a superficial level, like a deep soul level. Okay. They matter the absolute most to me. They are kind of my guiding light in life, right? Now, the thing about it is values are not a right or wrong. Everybody's personal story and experience in life and own individual situation, lifestyle, job, whatever it is, that's going to determine your values. So values are not a right or wrong. It's just very personal. My values are my family. My values are authenticity. My values are health, wellness. The list goes on. Relationships that are going to have longevity and are going to have a certain level of health and support for me, there does need to be at least one or two aligned values there. And even in business, doesn't have to, but I really try to make sure that my values are aligned and honored in business relationships. And so that's something that I've used in my adult life to really, really look at relationships. Oftentimes we build relationships off of commonality, especially amongst females. And I'm a female. I'll call myself out on things. I'm not too proud. But a lot of times in relationships, I've talked to my kids about this because they're getting older. A lot of times in relationships, we have an urgency and a desire for belonging and for community, but the way that we're willing to build those relationships is on really shaky ground. And so always asking ourselves, is this relationship being built on falsehoods, on shallowness? Am I talking about other people to feel close and bonded to this person? Am I using unhealthy forms of intimacy to grow close to someone? And if the answer is yes, then you probably need to pump the brakes on that relationship. The same thing goes if that's how you're being pursued. If someone's trying to build a relationship with you on things that don't align with your values, or by speaking unkindly about somebody else, or pretending to or trying to get close to you by speaking badly of someone else, then that's probably not going to be a relationship that's built on a really solid foundation. And so we really need to ask ourselves, what is the feeling when I'm in this relationship and when I leave this community and relationship? And if it feels kind of gross and if it feels kind of icky, then just check in with yourself, because we really want to feel valued. We want to feel filled up. We want to feel loved. We want to feel supported. We want to feel a commonality in values and interests. Those are like the big important things. Those are the things that are going to help us be well. Those are the things that are going to help with longevity. Those are the things that are going to help us live a full life. And so making sure that we're not just having relationships to have relationships, making sure we're not just pursuing relationships because we saw something on social media that these people always, maybe have a book club or something. I'm not in a book club right now, whatever. I'm just giving examples, making sure that we're seeking out, pursuing, maintaining relationships for all of the right reasons, and that they're done in the healthiest way that we know how. And if we don't have the skills to uphold, maintain, pursue, and foster healthy relationships and community, the good news is that's where we get to reach out for outside support. That's where we get to go work with a mental health care provider. We get to talk with a therapist, a psychologist. Those are different types of support that can really help us maybe find our blind spots in relationships, develop new skills that we just don't have yet, or haven't had a chance or an opportunity or a need to develop, and then carry that out into our relationships. We hear people all the time go to like therapy and counseling for their marriage. You can go and develop new skills for anything, for community amongst friends, for your relationship, and if you need improvement in relationships and skills in the workplace. And so if this is something that you are struggling with, or you're in a season of struggle with, it doesn't mean that you're bad at relationships. It doesn't mean that community is not for you. It just means that maybe you need to brush up on your skills. That's it. And so go do that, just like we got to brush up on our fitness and our nourishment and our mindset and our sleep. This is just another area on the wheel of health. It matters, it affects us, but it needs the same attention, and it needs the same finessing as every other area in our health and wellness. And so making sure that if this is something that you're longing for, even if you maybe feel loneliness, you definitely reach out and you make sure that you seek out support, because there are people out there that have an expertise in this. They have got it down. They have got so much knowledge. They have so many skills that they can help facilitate you with, and it can drastically improve your relationships. So that, I think, is the end of my intro, small talk, conversation, podcast episode on community and relationships. I hope that this got your wheels turning on your current relationships. I hope that it was an opportunity for you to look at your own relationships and really appreciate and value the ones that are going well. If you have relationships in community that need to be tended to, if you've been in a season where maybe it just hasn't got the attention that it needs, but you want to, I hope that this helps be the catalyst for that. If you needed some inspiration and some direction around seeking out support, I hope the latter part of the podcast helped you with that. Every single state and community has mental health care providers. You can just look up mental health care providers in your community. And I think that is all for now. If you want to dive deeper into this, we do have a new course out in the membership. It is only available in the membership. You get all of the yoga videos from my yoga therapy library. You also get my health coaching course, Art and Activate. And we have little micro master classes where we go deeper into different areas of health that are in there as well. And you get all of that for one set price and unlimited access to it every month. So you can check that out. And I think that's all. So until next time, guys, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you later. Bye.